really,
All the
thank
eyes
God.
about that. Yeah.
We want that for posterity. Lieutenant Governor of Marketing. So my job really is to help you market your club and find new members. And the district mission is to help all of our clubs, be healthy and be successful. So that's the job. Now, a year ago, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do, and I started to consider hybrid clubs. And at that point, about a year and a half ago, I said, there is, and I made it known, there is no way I will ever join a club that is not trying to go back to meeting in person. Right? Online's been fun, but not, I don't want hybrid. I want to meet in person. I love seeing my friends. Well, at the time I was president of the Mount Washington Valley Club. And when I was president of Mount Washington Valley, we decided we were going to go hybrid. So the title of my PowerPoint is called Embrace the Change. I'm going to take you through my thought process during the last year. And then we're going to talk about, yes, Bill, the 4 different options on how to run a club meeting and why we would want to choose one of them and focus on that, and what kind of changes we need to make in the club or our marketing or our dues. You'll get the idea as we go along. So with your permission, I think I've checked and I am able to share a screen. Yes, indeed. There it is. I'm going to share my screen. I'll be gone. I think I'll be out of sight for a while. But but I can still see you. We're going to run the slideshow. So what the, from the beginning. So the interesting thing, my first slide, this is an updated presentation that I made to Concord Toastmasters back in March of 2022. That's just about the time that Concord Toastmasters and the Mount Washington Valley Club began their hybrid meetings. And I thought, as a candidate for club growth director, I should be embracing the change. So we're going to embrace the change this evening. Change is good. I've changed my attitude about only belonging to a club that meets in person. And change is really, truly necessary because what's happened? Oh, goodness. Up until 3 years ago, we met live. That was the standard. If you wanted to meet online, you might have needed special permission from Toastmasters to do that. Now, what happened in March of 2020 was COVID, and it happened like that. The state of New Hampshire shut down on March 20th of 2020, and New Hampshire government and Toastmasters clubs, we were forced into an immediate change. We just stopped meeting. Now, there were some clubs that stopped meeting in New Hampshire, and others figured out how to use Zoom. And if you remember, if you were around at that time, Zoom meetings were brand new. It was a change for everyone. And now we don't think twice about it. It's just become the way of life for all of us. Now, the hybrid meeting started up last year, as I alluded to. I told you 2 clubs that I belong to, we went hybrid. And I was involved with the Mount Washington Valley transition. And I was opposed to the Concord Toastmasters transition. But we're going to hear from people in both of those clubs a little bit later. And Bill, here you go. Every club needs to decide which of the 4 formats. And there are 4. So I'm going to explain what the 4th one is. The first one is, of course, we can meet in person, a live meeting, nothing like the old Toastmasters. We went to Zoom, where everything was online. There were no live participants in those meetings. 2 years later, we developed the hybrid model, where we had some people in a conference room or a meeting room somewhere, and others joined the meeting online. Now, in the last month or 2, I have discovered that there are clubs in the district that are doing, their format is it's not a hybrid. It's not hybrid. It's a mixed format. They're doing clubs both ways. They're meeting live and in person, and they're meeting online, but they do it at different times. So a club, there's one club that meets 4 times a month, 2 meetings every month, they're meeting live. 2 meetings every month, they're meeting online only. So we're not mixing. There is no hybrid. And I'm hoping that Bob Bechtold arrives tonight, because his club is one of those, MDI Toastmasters. And I would love to hear from him how they came up with that idea and why they moved to that format. But maybe we'll catch up with him later. The benefits of change, of course, when we went to Zoom, we had to continue our excellent training program, which is Pathways. And we're not going to talk about Pathways this evening, but it is our training program. And I think it's one of the best online training programs that we've ever had in the world, in all the companies I've worked for. Best program ever. New membership from remote areas of our state. I live 2.5 hours from where Mount Washington Valley meets in person. And yet I probably attend more of their meetings than I do Concord Toastmasters, which meets 1.5 miles from where I live. The retention of the current members in your club. Now, this will become a consideration later, because if you are in a position where you've got members that have joined because they could come on Zoom, and they're in Montana and Maine and Nova Scotia. There is one club that we just chartered that has a member from, I want to say, Ukraine. I think she's from Ukraine, our new Women Change Makers Club. So when you're changing your format, if you're going from Zoom to hybrid, you need to consider the situation for your current members. And then, of course, the new skills learned by all of the club members in a hybrid format. It took us 2 years to learn Zoom, and now we've got new skills to learn because of the hybrid format. And we're going to talk about the technology a little bit later. But there are things you need to know now, how to run a camera and where to set up your speaker, and the lectern might not be in the right spot. So while you're making the change, commit to making a change for all of the right reasons for your club's situation. Now, your executive board, you hopefully will consider the demographics, and you might lose some members. If you go from a Zoom meeting to hybrid, or hybrid to in-person, some people might not be able to make the meeting. Mount Washington Valley, pay attention. If you lose hybrid, you will lose me. 2.5 hour drive. You need to set some new goals to achieve the changes. You're going to have to find the right venue. Before the meeting started and everyone was here, we were talking about Marina and Andrea. I think you guys were talking about churches. No, it wasn't. We were trying to figure out where people could meet, and finding the right place to meet for the in-person portion. Then you have to get the equipment, and you need people who know what to do with the equipment. You may not have those people in your club. You also need to tell Toastmasters International that you're allowing online participation and that you're in a hybrid format. And you do that by going to Club Central and completing the club demographics form. There's one spot in here where it says online attendance accepted. It's yes or no. I think this is a year old. I think this has changed now, where you can actually select hybrid as an option. And then you need to tell the world that you've got a new format, right? It can't be a secret. You need to tell the world that you're meeting in person solely, or you're meeting in a hybrid format. Mount Washington Valley, again, I had access to their website. This is what they did. They changed their Free Toast Host website to say, look, we are now meeting in person and virtually. And just for good measure, the marketing people in Mount Washington Valley had a grand reopening party. And we invited everyone to come to, and that's actually where we meet, in the first floor conference room, just to the left, or you can come online. So, but these are considerations that you need to make. And then you got to change your marketing plans. And I'm going to ask our panelists how they've done that. When we went from live to Zoom, marketing was probably on the back burner, but now that we've committed to Zoom online, in person, or a hybrid format, or that mixed format where we're going to meet twice a month in person and twice a month online, but never mix them together for a hybrid meeting, how do you market that? The open houses, the demonstration meetings, they've got to be different. And your VP of public relations and your vice president of membership need to use the technology to their advantage. If you're going to meet online, you got to be advertising online. Continued growth, of course, this is the reason. Remember the district's mission statement, new clubs and helping the other clubs achieve their excellence. So this is our mission: personal growth, professional development, membership growth in our club and in other clubs. We get new clubs in our areas, in our divisions, in our districts. And my favorite word, revivification of our enthusiasm. We're just going to get excited about Toastmasters again. If you embrace the change, embrace the change. And that is my message for this evening. Now, I want to talk to some people who have made the change. And where are you? We have, let's see, if I go back and I stop sharing and see who's in the meeting. All right. Hi, I'm back. I want to talk to, let's see who, all right. Sarah's one of our panelists. Lynn, Andrea, you're from Mount Washington Valley. Sarah's in Concord. And we're going to ask DJ and Heather and Abby. Abby, how does your club meet? What format do you use? Not that you're
right now we're all online, virtual.
Okay, that's a good thing. I think I just made you a panelist. Holly, what's your club up to? If you're there.
Hi, I'm a VP Education at Exeter Speak Ups. And
yes.
yes,
Okay.
along
so
with Marina.
You and Marina.
And we have been meeting virtually, and we've just made the decision that we're going to move to a once in-person meeting a month and one virtual meeting a month.
Right. Okay. You know what? And I'm gonna come back to you. I want to come back to Exeter in a little bit. I want to talk to Sarah. Sarah, I want to talk to you about the decision to go hybrid, the costs that you incurred, what folks, the three things: the expenses, the technology, and the marketing. So if you'd like to tell us, it's been almost a year for Concord. How did you come to the decision? Tell us the story, please.
Well, we were one of the clubs that immediately jumped into meeting remotely. We never missed a meeting, and we meet weekly, and we're very proud of that. The pandemic happened and we were on Zoom that week. There was definitely a learning curve there. No one expected it to last as long as it did. And during that time, we actually gained a number of members, and they were from other parts of the country. And obviously, being remote, it's easy to recruit those members. During that time, we built up, much to Mr. Coddington's chagrin, a bit of a war chest. But we knew that when we would come back to in person, that there would be technology needs. So the executive team sort of held that money knowing that we were going to need it. We got a lot of, I could caution right now, you can never make every member happy. A lot of people wanted to be back in person, and as a member of the executive team, we made that strong choice to commit to our new members who were remote. So we wanted to be hybrid. The costs associated with that can be steep, but I'm sure everyone here has a story to tell about that. And there's shortcuts, and there's definitely ways you can do it like A1 top notch. We were fortunate in our search for a new physical space that we were able to find a place that provided the technology. Not only did it provide the technology, but the price to rent the space was the cheapest one we found. Spaces are at a premium right now. It was very difficult. So that's where we're at. We're actually running down our war chest, and we have to start thinking about raising our dues. We've had a little bit of pushback on that, not too much. I have to be honest, we have been talking about doing that hybrid. I'm not sure how serious we are about it. We really like our weekly meetings with all our members, but there's definitely some technology and logistical hurdles that come with being a hybrid club.
That's for sure. And I appreciate the fact that you acknowledge that you can't keep every member happy. And that in moving from one format to another, you may very well lose members. And if you increase the dues because you need to pay for the technology or the Wi-Fi, you may lose members. How was the membership affected after the first dues increase? Did it go up, down? Did it not matter?
We lost some members, but there were various reasons. One person claimed it you can never see into the hearts of people, but there was a claim that it was too much. I honestly feel that Toastmasters is still a bargain. It's so inexpensive for what you get for the value. And if you amortize it out, we meet every week. So I don't know, it's less than $10 a meeting. And I find it's cheaper than a lot of other clubs that you could belong to. Oh gosh, Paul, you sidetracked me. Yes, we did lose members, but I think about the choices we made. To people wanted us to be back in person, so there was sort of that. It's like, oh, we have to be hybrid, and then we didn't seem to be able to reattract those members we had lost, even though we were live again. So that's why I say you have to make the choice that's right for your club, and commit to it.
Okay, thank you. We're going to come back to you and ask you about marketing because you were VPPR, I think, at the time you made the transition to hybrid. So we'll talk about how your marketing might have changed at that point. But now I want to pick on the ladies from Mount Washington Valley because you're in the same situation. You went hybrid just about the same time, but you did it differently. Tell us how that worked for you. Tell us what you did that was different than renting a space that was set up with the Wi-Fi and had all the equipment. Andrea.
Paul, thank you. I was president at the time. It was a voluntold, yes, a voluntold role. And I spent a year looking for a space. We did a poll with our members to
Mhm.
find out if folks would be able to take on raising dues for us to meet the expensive rental fees for spaces in our area. And it was voted a no. It took a year for me to find a space that met all of our criteria, that being in a good location, free, in a good location and free. Our equipment, much of it was donated. We spent $300 on equipment. One of our members did a great job researching and finding it and bringing it in. He and his wife, they set it up at home, they tested it, came into the space, more donations, more efforts, and we now have a really nice system. I will say that, like Sarah, our club didn't miss a beat. We were on Zoom the following meeting, and we actually grew our numbers during COVID. We had newsprint, television, web, Facebook, radio. We had a lot of marketing. Our PR, our VP PR at the time, was someone with a tremendous amount of PR background experience and connections, and she won the Omnipresence Award. Oh gosh, you'd know the name of it right off the top of your head, Paul.
The
So
district award for
Thank
public relations, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Paul. We also, Sarah, like you, we had members that we gained from states apart that we wanted to keep. And that was part of our decision in remaining hybrid. We did have at least one member that came back when we became hybrid. She was waiting for us to be in person again, being someone that had to live on Zoom for her job and couldn't take it anymore. So in a nutshell, I think that about covers it. Is there anything I'm not thinking of, Paul? Lynn?
Yeah.
I think that
Lynn-
about covers it.
Yeah, Lynn is the one who manages all of this equipment, gets it set up, keeps it wrangled and under control, and it's no small feat.
No, it's not. So,
Well-
I'm sorry, go ahead, Lynn.
I was also a new member at that time. And I would say I joined the club. I experienced the club online for the first time because I didn't have to go in person and face that awkwardness of being like in a place where I didn't know anybody. So I think that doing hybrid actually adds to the club because it gives those people that are afraid to interact in person by themselves a chance to actually be in the comfort of their home and experience the club and then see what it's all about and then join.
Right. So let me ask you this. How did you join? How did you hear about the club? If they were meeting online?
On Facebook, I had been following it for a while and I had never been able to make it to an in-person meeting. And then when it was online, I said, well, I can take advantage of this because I don't have to drive 30, 45 minutes to get there. I can just sit at my computer and here I am, you know?
Okay, so good. So Andrea, Lynn, Sarah, you took the out of range members into consideration when you decided to go with the hybrid format, and it's been a year. Now, have you lost any of these members that you accommodated in the past year? Anyone that from out of state who's left, and did they leave because of Toastmasters, or was it another reason?
There were different reasons. It had nothing to do with our club, but I would say that the marketing has become a bit more difficult. I'm not VP PR anymore, and I was like looking. I never get to show this off. I got the I believe this was the D45 Toastmaster of the Year for my VP PR outreach, and I can't even recall what we did. We were doing a lot of outreach, and Paul, I vaguely, there was a lot of collaboration between clubs to bring members in, but I think it's become much more of a struggle now to advertise the or promote the what it is that makes a hybrid club special and getting people to join.
Okay, thank you for that. I want to bring, everyone's welcome to speak, but because it's a small group and we can have an intimate little discussion, feel free to ask the panelists questions. But now I want to talk to Marina and Holly, because now you've taken a different tack, because you've done the in-person, you've done the hybrid, and now you're changing the way you do business again. Talk to us about
Yes,
it.
we are. Holly, do you want to speak first?
Sure. We also didn't miss a beat when COVID hit. I was very familiar with Zoom and had been coaching clients via Zoom. And so we got everybody on board and rather quickly. In terms of hybrid, we have experimented one meeting with our limited technology at Marina's house to see what it was like. And it is a lot to manage. And we also realize that there's going to be a huge investment, financial and otherwise, to make a viable hybrid club. So we're just sticking our toes back in the water. We lost some people because we went online because they were spending their entire day online. We gained some members who were thankful we were meeting online. And then we lost people who, wanted to meet face to face. And so we're experimenting with one meeting a month coming up in person and one virtual meeting to feel things out and see. And also we need to survey our members, past and present, and guests that we've had to really find out what the issues are. Yeah.
And we did already take a vote among our members at the last meeting. It was decided that everyone without exception would like to go live for one meeting a month. And this is actually not something that I would recommend for any club that has members that can only meet remotely. Now, we had one member who moved to Washington, D.C., but she recently told me in a phone conversation, Marina, I just can't do it anymore. I'm going to have to drop my membership. So there went that reason not to have one live meeting a month. The other consideration for us is that we have a space at Hannaford Supermarket in Exeter on the second floor. We can buy our drinks and water and snacks downstairs if we want to on our way in. They are so kind. They have actually supplied things for free. There is no rental fee, and our club has never paid a rental fee that I'm aware of, at least not in the 10 years that I've been a member. And I still maintain that we can have a free space. We may get our Riverwood space back eventually. And in that case, we will have, once again, a state-of-the-art space that's going to have all of the technology. I believe they hope to have the space for us ready by spring. And we do hope so also. So our intention fully is to go hybrid at that point. At least that's my intention if I have a say about it. And I do think our officers are all on board with that. We do not want to give up Zoom. Absolutely not. We see the value in it. Some of us have learned how to give presentations to customers, clients, and so on now via the Zoom format with Toastmasters. It's a great benefit to be able to do both, but we don't want to lose our live ability either. We did do 2 trials, actually 3 in the past year or so. We had a live meeting outdoors at the farm at Eastman's Corner, right near where I live in the summer last year. where we got together live and we were just had such a great time. And this year on election day in the evening, after everybody voted, we invited them to come over to Hannaford, and we had a very lively group, including, I think we had 4 or 5 guests. And just last month, we had a holiday party that was live again. A number of members told me they're ready to come back to the club, even if it's only 1 live meeting per month. We feel we have nothing to lose and possibly a few things to gain, including vitality, because it is hard to maintain that when you're only on Zoom.
Right. So it's interesting that your tendency is now to go back to meeting in person live because there's more interest in that. And
There
you may
is so
have
much
a-
more vitality, enthusiasm, energy. It's everywhere, and all of our members love it. And we don't have that many members. We lost a lot of members. In fact, we gained a lot of members. We gained 8 members from 2021 to 22, but we lost about as many. So we have not gained, and we've lost them for so many reasons. They couldn't take evening meetings. They didn't want to do Zoom anymore. Too shy, had a beef, too busy, one thing or another. We don't think it was lack of quality in our meetings. I believe we've done an exemplary job of maintaining that, even with fairly low membership.
Okay, now, good point. Sarah wants to know how many members your club has.
9 on paper, 7 active.
Okay, so it's a little smaller than
Mhm.
some of the clubs that are in the room here
2
now.
applications underway right now as we speak, though. And
Oh, you're
both-
making my day.
Both of them are people who are very much on board with going to at least 1 live meeting a month.
Okay, great.
It sounds like
Ab-
there will be a 3rd as well very shortly.
Abby, you had your hand up, I hear, and you had a question or a comment or help us.
Yes, I did have a question. Kind of from the first section, I was wondering about the locations because I know that you had mentioned the grocery store location, and that's a great one. But the other 2 clubs that had gone to a hybrid, can you speak more to, and those of you who have gone hybrid, maybe what your locations are? We had an in-person meeting space that we were meeting at pre-pandemic, and then we went to virtual. So I'm just kind of thinking if there is an investment, if there are any low cost or free venue options around, like what are they?
Anybody?
Yes,
Sure.
Oh, definitely community facilities, libraries, community recreation centers. We looked into those in Exeter. We have a beautiful library, beautiful space. They would love to have us there, but they close their doors at 8 o'clock. We don't end our meetings until at least 8:15, and then we have to clean up. So
Mhm.
not going to work for us, and we can't go earlier. Another thing though, possibly corporations, if you know somebody that works for a corporation in the area, they might have the technology and everything, maybe not everything you need, but they will be better equipped than many other spaces.
Sarah, you had something to throw in here?
I was just gonna say, we ran into the time issue because we meet at 7 AM weekly. It was difficult for us to find a place. We need to be able to get in by 6:30 AM.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of places that are willing to open up to us. So we really struggled. Our previous space had been a free place. The Hospital Wellness Center provided us with a, oh my gosh, classy
Out.
A1 audio, visual, everything supplied, all the tables and chairs. It was very professional. Now we're in a church, and we oftentimes have to accommodate when they're bringing in, they house homeless people periodically. And so we might get moved out of our space into a different space. The setup is less than optimal. But they provide the audio visual for us, so you can't beat the price. It's $50 a meeting, which is pretty cheap for Concord.
Yes, so, and it works, especially if you don't look too closely at the lectern and realize it's a pool table.
It's on top of a pool table. Yeah.
Heather.
Yeah.
Heather's got her hand up.
Yeah, the libraries here aren't free. You pay, and depending on the location of the library, you pay quite a lot. Community centers aren't free. Corporations, you can only usually get into if you have somebody in the corporation who's a member, and then you're reliant on that person being there. Previous location for TikTokers, the Club Abby was referring to, did allow it. It originally had employees there, but they let the club continue to meet. But that's really hard. And TikTokers is a noontime club. Getting into a corporate meeting space in the evening is next to impossible. I know our club looked at one point a few years ago, and we looked at over 60 places and couldn't find anything that was cheaper than what we were paying at the school that we were meeting at. Schools, you pay as well. So here in Halifax, finding free meeting space is very, very difficult. And some of the stores have meeting locations. Most of them are meeting rooms. Most of them only rent them for a couple of meetings or let you have them for a couple of meetings, but none of them are allowing outside groups in yet anyway. So it's no point for that. So it's very, very difficult here.
And things do continue to change. And speaking of changes, I'm going to ask Bill about the White Mountain at some point shortly. Be ready. But Marina, I mean, changing, or all of you, changing the format, changing the location, is that a dangerous thing to do? I mean,
Not
to keep going-
if you work it right. So
Okay.
our website, we had our meeting last night, to decide that next week's meeting will actually be live. Our website is already updated with the new information about first meeting of every month, first Wednesday being on Zoom, and the third Wednesday being live with the name of the Hannaford and the address. We've already mentioned it on Facebook, and our meetup invitations are done for the next 2 meetings. The other thing that we do is we religiously send out meeting notices, and it's going to be in big, bold type right at the top of the email that we are either meeting Zoom or we are meeting live. It'll be made quite clear to people that we are changing the format. And actually, our current members already know. And even the ones who are filling out applications or just turned in applications, they already know. And they want the live.
They know they need to be flexible, like every good Toastmaster, right? DJ, you have not said a word. Do you have?
Well,
an
we've been doing
experience?
hybrid since before COVID, because when the main thing chartered, we have
Yeah.
members from all over the place. So we were using Zoom a year before COVID hit and doing hybrid meetings. So for us, it's not a big deal. We don't spend a lot of money. We have one external speaker. We have one external microphone. We use 3 laptops in a room that we've always been in, and that was it. So we, even with my other club, Kennebec Valley, has members from Arizona and New Jersey, and so we'll always have hybrid.
You're
But
always-
we
always-
had our first hybrid meeting last night for the first time in like a year and a half, and people loved it. The people on Zoom were having a great time, and the people in the room were having a great time. We got
Yeah.
feedback, how to set it up a little bit differently. So we've been doing it for a while.
I think 2 things. I think hybrid, I've grown to like hybrid. I've changed my attitude. It is fun. I do wish that at the beginning of the meetings, when I'm online, that I got the names of the people who are in the room that I can't see. But that being said, if I was an area director when COVID hit, and if it weren't for the main thing, I don't think I went to the meetings. I learned how to use Zoom at a main thing meeting so I could take it to the clubs in my area, and none of my clubs missed a meeting. But it was a little tough at the beginning, but we did it. Marina.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to ask DJ, where do you meet currently for the live portion of your meeting?
We meet at City Hall in Augusta, but they've been meeting at City Hall since before I was a Toastmaster. So for at least it'll be 8 years. So I think for the last 10 years, they've met at City Hall. And occasionally there's a room where we can use their big auditorium they have for city council meetings. They have all the technology, but they meet the same time we do. So it's just easier to use a couple of laptops and seems to work out well. Kind of got it
Great.
down pat by now.
That's a great idea to inquire with city halls. The other thing I might mention is we met at Riverwoods, which is a senior community, state-of-the-art senior community in Exeter, New Hampshire, before COVID hit. And we hope to get back there by this spring. Now, will we be able to get in? So COVID really threw a wrench into that works, because senior communities are excellent venues to use for this purpose. We did not get charged a penny. They supplied everything, the technology, the tables, pictures of ice water, everything. They were so wonderfully cooperative that we can't wait to get back there. We hope it happens. But if you have senior communities in your area, they may or may not be open to outsiders. Some of them have rearranged their interiors so that when you come into the building, you don't have to walk all the way through the residence areas to get, for example, to a conference room. That's what they're doing at Riverwoods.
Yeah,
So at that point, we should be allowed in again.
Good luck with that. Tom has something, and I want to ask Bill a question before we're done. Tom.
Yes, thank you. I love the discussion, by the way. Very, very good. I wanted to just say that we thought we had a great location at Blueberry Hill, my home club. We're at Unum, which is a big insurance company. We had the nice seats, and we had the full wall, which you could see the people online. But we had a problem, and we almost went to just in-person meetings. The problem that we had simply is the firewall at Unum. It didn't support Zoom. And we were all getting frustrated. But we found as soon as we switched to Microsoft Teams, the problem went away, because that's what they use at Unum. So there is sometimes a lot of frustration with hybrid. There doesn't have to be, and I hope you don't have it. But if you have it, I'm just asking you to stick with it. And once you fix the problem, it works. And it can work very well. Thank you.
Thanks. Bill, tell us where you meet. And I think your club had the very first hybrid meeting that I attended in person. And it was rough going.
It was.
And then it got better. And then did you stop at some point?
Good Lord, no.
And start again? Tell us your story, please.
So well, first of all, where we meet, the founder of the Common Man restaurant chain in New Hampshire was a charter member of our club. And he, even though he doesn't come to meetings anymore and he's no longer a member, he gives us the space for free every week.
Yes.
This includes, if they can find it, the projector, the screen, extension cords, whatever we need to set the room up to be able to have our hybrid meeting with a screen where we can actually look at the people who are not in the room. For the rest of the meetings, we're using laptops for the most part, and mostly my laptops, because I have a lot of them.
Okay, so,
And it's been smooth. It's been much smoother than the first one. You should come back.
yeah,
but-
okay.
It's almost to the point where I could not worry about it. But I show up a half an hour early anyway, because I always worry about it.
Right. Well, and there is that part to it too. I think, Lynn, I think, did Lynn leave us? But yeah, so, the setup before the meeting and the takedown after, where to store the equipment, or are you schlepping it back and forth to each meeting? So it's a lot of work to do that. So I know that we're close. It's 10 to 8, and I know Tom's going to want to take some time to talk about TLIs. So what I want to thank you all for coming and sharing your stories. And when we began this, I said, embrace the change, and the change is constant. We could see that we've gone from in-person to Zoom, out to the hybrids. Now we're playing with the mixed version where we're going to have a meeting, every other meeting is going to be in person, every other meeting is going to be online, and we're never going to do hybrid. Or I think, and like Marina said, every meeting, you need to know where you're going to meet and how it's going to work. I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to let Tom have the lectern back. Technology problems during a meeting. How do you handle them? What happens? Is it a big deal? Not a big deal anymore? Is it something people expect? Anybody?
We learn from them.
Okay.
We make the best of it. We do the best we can to communicate with one another, often with waving feverishly or picking up the phone or texting or whatnot. And then we strive to fix that issue and move forward.
Good point. I mean, it's going to happen, right? And one of the benefits that I've seen is if there's a snow day, I mean, we do live in a cold part of the world. There's no longer a canceled meeting. We'll just stay home and we'll have it online. So we do, there's some continuity there too. And Abby has a long message here. We haven't talked about it yet as a club. Oh, you're telling us about your club. Yeah. So if you make a change, I think early on in the conversation, early on in my presentation, I said, make the change, make it for the right reasons. Consider your club, its demographics. Think about how the technology is going to impact the meeting setup, the meeting takedown, the way you operate physically as a club, the costs, and please, the marketing. The marketing. Has anyone done an open house as a hybrid or Zoom club? No. Yes. Okay. It was different, right? Did it work? Did you get any members out of it? Okay, I think that's something.
We did from our first one, or maybe it was our second. We've done, I think, 3 open houses on Zoom. And we always have guests. And we did gain a couple of members from a couple of those open houses, but they unfortunately didn't last.
Okay.
The world is different. Zoom is a different world, and people tend to burn out and drop out.
Yep. That, and that's a good excuse to leave a meeting when you're not having fun. I suspect, Marina, that there are other reasons, there are other issues with your members that they're just using Zoom as an excuse to get.
Oh,
away.
no.
No,
The ones
no.
who
Okay.
told me Zoom is it. No, one
Just
of them
playing
all day
the
with
devil's
Melody
advocate here.
for her work. So I assume.
There are some things that we still need to work on as a district, as clubs. We need to figure out the marketing. And Tom, I've asked Tom, we've talked about doing a membership sales seminar. How do you close the deal? It was hard enough when we were meeting in person, but now it's even harder when your guest shows up and can disappear with the click of a button. So closing the deal once you get a guest at your meeting is more difficult than before, perhaps. than it's been. Heather, your hand is up. Is it still up or do you have something?
It is still up. First of all, I actually find
Okay.
it easier to close the deal online
Okay,
in person. And it's easier to invite people. I still think people will say, oh yeah, I'm burned out, but you had in-person meetings all day and you could still go to an in-person meeting at
Meeting.
night. So I think you should be able to have a Zoom meeting all day and go to a Zoom meeting, but that's another thing. But as far as the technology and issues with technology, there were issues when we met in person. You had to learn to deal with them. We were having an open house one night, and at 4 o'clock that afternoon, we got a call from our school where we met saying the power was out.
out, oh,
Couldn't have a meeting.
right.
Well, there was that, we arrived at the school one night and they hadn't unlocked the classroom, and we couldn't find the janitor to get the classroom unlocked. We have issues, whether we're meeting in person, hybrid, Zoom, it doesn't matter. You just have to figure out how you work around those, regardless of what it is, and not say, oh God, this technology is so terrible and everything.
Right. Nope, you're absolutely right. You make the best of what you've got. So I want to thank the folks I invited as panelists to share their stories and give us some ideas about the experience, because clearly there are clubs that are still making some decisions, and some clubs who thought they had made a final decision are finding that nothing's forever. So thank you to the panelists. Thank you all for coming and participating. And I appreciate your time and attention. Mr. Program Quality Director, thank you for the time, and the meeting is yours.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you,
sir.
Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
I want to just mention one other thing, because I tend to do that a lot. And that is, if we have said it in this meeting, I apologize, but I also want to highlight that speaking in a hybrid meeting is a skill. I foresee hybrid meetings to be directly transferable. A lot of workplaces are going to cut down on their travel budget, and they're going to have meetings. Looking at the in-person audience and looking at the Zoom audience is difficult, and it takes practice, but it also is going to help you if you work where you have hybrid meetings. So that I want to just go ahead and cover a couple of things that we have upcoming. As Paul mentioned, we do have our TLIs scheduled for 5 days from now, actually the first one. On the 16th, we're having our first session, and then that's session 1 and 2. And then on the 19th, we're having sessions 3 through 5. These are all online. These are not hybrid. And we have some other sessions coming up. They're all on the District 45 website. There is one single link. So that's all you need to worry about. And that also is on the website. The 5 sessions, what we need to get full credit for your Distinguished Club program. And if you have more than one officer role, you need to go to that training for each officer role. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, for that officer role only. Good. Okay, some other things coming up other than TLIs. We do have on the 17th a President's Peer Call. That was a recent change, correct? And we have a Sergeant Arms Peer Call on the 25th, a VPM Peer Call on the 26th, correct, Paul? And so those are some of the upcoming things that are happening in our district. I really appreciate everybody's time and attention today and contributions. And with that, unless somebody has anything else, I want to wish you a good night.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.